Yo, what's up, gang? This is Kash, back again with another video, and today, I'm going to be talking about whether or not it's transphobic to not want to date a trans person. Y'all ready? Let's get it! So, I would say, long story short, it depends. That's the answer to that question. For example, if you write off all trans people, you say, I'm not attracted to trans people, I could never date a trans person. Yes, that's transphobic. We all have nuanced experiences, nuanced identities, different types of bodies. No trans person is the same. So by making a blanket statement, that's super problematic. A lot of people say, oh, well, I'm attracted to men, but I like men with penises. Okay, some trans men have penises. You can't tell just by knowing someone's trans what genitals they have. While not all trans people medically transition, a lot do. All of this isn't to say that having a genital preference is bad. Everyone has a genital preference. What I am saying is that when you find out someone's trans, you don't know what genitals they have. If for some reason you're having a respectful conversation and they tell you and you're like, oh, okay, I'm not really comfortable with that, like, it's okay. I don't think you should feel like you have to date someone even though they don't have the genitals that you're into. You know what I mean? A lot of people bring up the argument like, well, if I'm a man and I'm attracted to women, but if I date a trans woman, am I gay? No. Like, that trans woman is a woman. Fellas, is it gay to like a woman? Like, no. And a lot of people care what other people think because some more ignorant people might be like, oh, like, you're gay. And I think that stops a lot of people from pursuing someone that they might be attracted to, which, everyone cares what other people think, but in this case, I feel like, especially for cisgender men, the pressure is on to be, straight. There's so much societal pressure that they just can't get over it and, won't date a trans woman, which is, you guessed it, transphobic. There's also the pretext of, oh, I only date people that I can have children with. Okay, so that implies that procreation is more important than any other part of the relationship. What about a cisgender woman and a cisgender man who get married? They're trying to have kids. Turns out one of them's infertile. They still dated each other despite, not even knowing that. Most of the time, if someone can't have children, you don't know that until you try to have children with them, which generally happens after marriage. So just saying you don't want to go on a coffee date with someone because you can't have kids with them is kind of messed up. And it puts a different standard on transgender people. So I read an article, which I'll link below, and in that article, a doctor who specializes in sexual orientation and gender identity at King's College in London, named Dr. Timmons, was quoted saying, "Sexual attraction is a response to stimuli. Stimuli that can be based on any number of things. For example, waist to hip ratio, certain behaviors, or breast size." End quote. Cool. Sexual attraction comes from stimuli. Got it. Some trans people are not distinguishable from cis people. Oftentimes you look at a trans person and have no idea they're trans. Dr. Timmons continues to say, being unwilling to date on the basis of someone being trans rather than on the basis of individual stimuli is something I would personally call transphobic. So, let's say you're on a date. You met this person on Tinder, you're at a restaurant, it's going great, you think they're super cute, you're having great conversation, and the person says, by the way, I just want to be upfront with you, I'm transgender. If you then say, I think I left my stove on, I have to leave right now immediately. Or, finish the date, never call them again, because they're trans, that's transphobic. If before you knew you were picturing going on more dates, having a good time with this person, you liked them, you were attractive, you had that physical response to stimuli that made you attracted to them, and then solely based on the fact that they were trans, you totally, said, oh my god, never mind, That's transphobic. Now, some people get mad when trans people don't tell them right away that they're trans. Like, oh, you made me go on this date and then you told me that you're trans? Like, that's kind of lying, right? I read this super dope opinion piece by an author who uses the pen name Sarah C., which I'll link below. Now, she says, quote, "It's pretty terrifying to navigate a dating pool where you're both disqualified from people's dating preferences when you disclose your trans status up front, but then also threatened with violence when you choose not to disclose the details of your genitals before the other person can accidentally fall in love with you." Right? What are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to tell people up front and then not ever go on a date? Or hope that someone likes you enough to put aside the fact that you're trans and tell them after, and then open yourself up to being, like, beaten or murdered by that person? There's also something called a trans panic defense, which is legal in most states, and if you murder someone or beat them and are arrested, you can legally use the trans panic defense to say that you were driven temporarily insane by finding out that someone was trans, that you just killed them or murdered them, and it lessens your sentence, like, incredibly. It's so problematic. So these things have real life consequences. It's not just about, like, whether or not you would date a trans person. It's about how people react to trans people that are in their dating pool. It's disgusting. Now, it's super clear that trans women have it harder, especially trans women of color. The same author, Sarah C., says, quote, "On the one hand, we punish trans women for being pretty, accuse beautiful trans women of lying by passing, saying that trans women are perpetuating misogyny by being stereotypically feminine. But on the other hand, we also punish trans women who aren't pretty in the context of a cis-centric media landscape by saying they look like men, they aren't worthy of respect, can't work a service job, can't be in visible media roles, are complicated to provide health care for, and more artificial barriers created for trans people. This happens because we as a culture seem to want trans people to be both cis-appearing enough to be invisible, but we also expect trans people to out themselves at every possible moment just to make them even easier to avoid." Mic drop. Go off, Sarah. Most of the problem here in this situation about dating trans people comes from wrong assumptions about trans people. Talk to the person that you're considering dating. Say, "I'd like to have a respectful conversation with you just to make sure we're on the same page. I don't really know that much about trans people, so I just kind of want to, get to know you and make sure that everyone's comfortable." I would definitely be okay with that. If someone said, "Oh, I've never done this before, like, can you tell me what's up?" I would gladly do that. Again, if that person wasn't comfortable, I would much rather them tell me up front and be like, "Listen, you seem really cool, but I'm not comfortable with this." Like, I don't want someone to date me who doesn't want to date me. You know what I mean? It doesn't feel good when someone's like, "Oh, I don't want to date you. I'm not really comfortable with this." So critically think why you might not be comfortable with it, and really think, is it about them or is it about you? And if it's about you, is it about, like, your needs and your wants, or is it about some weird, unknown, scary, like, oh, a trans person, I don't know what to do. Like, critically think about why you might think, oh, but, like, I'm not really attracted to trans people, or I can never date a trans person. Like, most of the times when you date a binary trans person, it's like dating a cisgender person of that gender. So, in conclusion, blanket statements are transphobic. I could never date a trans person. I'm not attracted to trans people. We're all different. We have different body types, different genitalia, different personalities, different races, different everything. Like, no two people are the same in every sense of that word, and that applies to trans people. Also, finding out that someone's trans and then not being interested in them is also transphobic. Now, please don't misinterpret my words. I'm not saying just because someone's trans, you have to date them. If a trans person has a crush on you, but you don't like them because you're not attracted to them, or you don't really just feel a connection with them, that's okay. I'm not saying that you have to date every trans person you come across who expresses interest in you. I hope you understand the nuance in this conversation. I don't think anyone is owed anything. You don't owe it to trans people to date them, but you shouldn't exclude them from your dating pool just because they're transgender. You don't know that person, you haven't even met them, you know? Thanks for watching, guys. I hope that this video cleared some things up. If you have questions or comments or want to argue with me, drop them down in the comments. My Instagrams are below. Please follow me. I'll be back next week with another video. Thanks. Peace.